What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. Well, this is certainly a basketball opinion that you won't see promulgated by the media anytime soon, and that is because it doesn't fit their agenda. So I'll put a link to this article in the pinned comment in the comment section below. So when it comes to Gary Payton, Hall of Famer Gary Payton, of course, longtime Seattle Supersonic, Gary Payton believes that the GOAT is none other than Wilt Norman Chamberlain. Now, I'm not going to say who was interviewing him, but this is Gary Payton right here.
Consider yourself the greatest point guard of all time?
No, I just consider myself one of the greatest basketball players that ever played the game.
There you go.
I don't care about who is the greatest and whatever. To my opinion, John Stockton was the greatest point guard to ever play. That's my opinion. It's always opinion, and then Magic and all of them. People ask me who was the greatest basketball player to ever play. I think Wilt Chamberlain was.
Okay.
Period is period. All the stuff that he did and all the records, who are all chasing after all his records? It's all his records. You know, everybody chasing after him, breaking his records. I don't see nobody else chasing after one guy breaking records. I see all Wilt Chamberlain records getting broke. When you see Harden and all them, who records are he breaking? He's breaking Wilt Chamberlain. So I'm just saying like this, I don't compare people. They tell me to compare people. I don't care. All of us was great. We all in the same category, Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Gary Payton always, had his own unique opinion about things. He doesn't think Mike is the greatest, even though he does think Jordan was great. But I've always noticed he definitely had a lot of respect for John Stockton. But I did not know that he thought that Wilt was the GOAT. And I appreciate that about him. And it's not just about numbers. Like, a lot of people keep talking about, oh man, sneak dissing me and shit in some videos. Some guys think it's all about numbers, and it's all about numbers. No, it's not just about numbers. The numbers are a reflection of the dominance that this man had over the game that no other player has been able to come close to. And not only was Wilt Norman Chamberlain dominant, but people got to remember that the NBA did things to slow Wilt Chamberlain down or to prevent him from being so cartoonishly dominant. That's the only player I can think of that they really did a lot of. The second most, I would say, would be to George Mikan with the goaltending and all that. But Wilt, his entire career, they were always doing things to try to slow him down or make him less dominant. And the NBA did the same thing. Whereas with some of these other players, the NBA has made rules to or made changes to help them be more dominant. I ain't gonna name names, but it's watch basketball. You got guys that should have been retired years ago that because of rule changes, they're still dominating. So at the end of the day, I just think Wilt was in a class by himself in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? If there was a such thing as free agency back then, and you could team up with other guys and not have to play for the same franchise for 5, 6, 7 years unless they traded you, then maybe his should be different when it comes to the championship tally. And I still believe that you could take Nate Thurmond and put him on the Boston Celtics and they would have won almost as many titles. Not trying to downplay Bill Russell's greatness. I'm not. But I just don't think he belongs in the same tier as some of these other guys. He was great, absolutely. But he's the only guy I've ever seen whose greatness has always been measured in championships. It's championships. He's been the greatest beneficiary of that era when it comes to championships. But as a player, he has a lot lacking that we. That's how I can prove that we're like a ring obsessed culture, because if you take Bill Russell as a player, this is a guy who wasn't a great scorer, was horribly inefficient, could not shoot free throws at all. See, this is how we know. I know there's a bias against Wilt. Wilt could not shoot free throws, right? But neither could Bill Russell. But does that ever get brought up? No. Why? Because when Bill Russell missed free throws, or maybe I should put it like this, there were certain parts of the game when Boston kept the ball away from Bill Russell, and they would have their backcourt start dominating the fourth quarter. Sure, Bill Russell would make a fine defensive play when it mattered, and against inferior centers he might score, but against the creme de la creme, for the most part, he was limited to being a defensive threat. So, in the day, I'm sorry, I just don't put him in the same category. It's one thing when a whole team has to game plan against one player, but Wilt's team has to game plan against the entire Boston Celtics, and they still were barely beating Wilt's teams a lot of times. So I'm sorry. I just look at the whole thing differently. So to me, man, I look at what he had to go up against all the time. To me, I think Wilt's the GOAT. Because I think Wilt went up against more Hall of Famers. When you consider how small the NBA was, Wilt went up against more Hall of Famers in the finals than probably anybody else. That's all I got to say about it.